Oscar and Julian, twin brothers who worked in local construction, invested their pooled savings in a run-down piece of property adjacent to an abandoned railway spur. The land was cheap, but it came with a massive headache: a standard 40-foot shipping container, heavily rusted, bolted shut, and half buried in the overgrown soil. They assumed it was full of construction debris or old equipment, and their plan was simply to cut it open and sell the entire hulk for scrap metal. The container was immovable and firmly rooted to the spot. The sheer difficulty of opening it was the first clue something was amiss. The doors were secured not only by the original locking bar, but also by several massive, industrial padlocks that were welded onto the frame. This was an intentional attempt to keep people out, far beyond simple storage security. After hours of struggle with cutting torches and hydraulic spreaders, they managed to shear off the locks. The door hinge was stiff, but finally, with a loud grinding screech, the doors slowly began to separate. The twins paused, bracing for the rush of foul air or the sight of rotten garbage. But the air that emerged was shockingly dry, cool, and carried a faint, clean scent of oil and preservation chemicals. They shone their worklights inside, and what they saw instantly stopped their plan to scrap the metal. The interior of the container was not standard. It was fully insulated and lined with plywood panels, meticulously climate-controlled. The floor was covered with heavy rubber mats, and it was filled with automotive equipment. However, this was not junk. The container housed a collection of specialized engines, chassis components, and body panels, all individually wrapped in preservation plastic and resting on custom-built steel racks. Hey guys! Quick break, because we need your help to show you the full story of this mysterious cargo container. We are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and we need to smash that goal ASAP. If you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe. It makes a massive difference. Also, drop a comment below and let us know where in the world you're watching this video from. We love seeing how far our adventures travel. Now, let's get back to the good stuff. The biggest items were the engines. There were 3 of them, all covered in plastic. When they carefully peeled back the film on the first, they gasped. It was a massive V12 racing engine, completely pristine, with an intricate design they didn't recognize. The engine was clearly vintage, built for high performance, and stamped with a unique, very low serial number. They started carefully unwrapping the accompanying parts, which included custom transmissions and lightweight magnesium wheels. The twins, who were familiar with automotive salvage, knew immediately that this was not random equipment. It was the entire inventory for a project car, stored perfectly, waiting for decades. The components were specialized, rare, and definitely expensive. They found a small, sealed tube tucked into the foam lining of the container. Inside was a single, laminated card with a unique numeric code and the name Project Griffin written on it. They realized they had stumbled upon a high-value, secret automotive legacy, hidden right on their cheap piece of land. The search for Project Griffin and the unique V12 engine began immediately. The low serial numbers led them down a rabbit hole of historical racing forums and obscure automotive archives. They finally connected the components to a legendary, failed Italian racing venture from the late 1980s. The venture had planned to build an ultra-limited run of 12 high-performance supercars, but the project collapsed due to financial and legal issues. All remaining prototype parts were ordered destroyed by the investors. The content of the container was the proof that the destruction order was never fully carried out. The twin brothers had found the entire, complete inventory for the final, unbuilt 3 Project Griffin supercars. The V12 engines were hand-built, rare prototype models, each worth hundreds of thousands of dollars on the collector's market, even as standalone components. The container was a time capsule of automotive perfection. The laminated card with the unique code proved to be the final layer of security. On a hunch, they used the code to search for archived shipping manifests related to the industrial area. They found a cryptic record showing the container was shipped in 1989 and signed for by a shell corporation with ties to one of the original Project Griffin investors, a man who had since disappeared after being linked to various tax fraud schemes. The investor had clearly hidden his most valuable assets rather than letting them be seized or destroyed by creditors. The container was a full kit. They found meticulously organized technical blueprints and a master assembly manual, all perfectly preserved. The most shocking item was a full, painted carbon fiber body shell, designed for extreme aerodynamics, carefully suspended from the container ceiling, completely pristine. The estimated value of the components for just one of the 3 cars was over $1 million, meaning the entire contents of the container were worth multiple millions. They knew they couldn't simply sell the parts on eBay. The scarcity and history of the components required specialized handling. The components were technically stolen or fraudulently withheld from the original creditors decades ago. They carefully resealed the container, hiring a private security firm to guard the site while they sought legal counsel. The discovery had escalated from a simple scrap job to a major international asset recovery case involving historical fraud and the world of ultra-rare car collectors. The twin brothers were sitting on the biggest payday of their lives, but claiming it would require immense legal complexity. The complexity of the case was overwhelming. The twins' lawyer determined that the statute of limitations had long expired on the original fraud charges, and the original creditors were untraceable. The contents of the container legally fell under the category of abandoned property found on their land. However, due to the high value and the historical significance, they chose the ethical route. They contacted an auction house specializing in rare automotive assets and worked with a team of historians to establish an undisputed chain of title. The news of the discovery of the lost Griffin assets, the inventory for 3 unbuilt supercars, sent shockwaves through the global collecting community. Major collectors and museums immediately descended upon the small industrial lot. The twins, Oscar and Julian, were suddenly the owners of a treasure that every serious automotive enthusiast coveted. The decision was made to sell the inventory as 2 complete kits, enough to build 2 cars, and auction the remaining single V12 engine and specialized components individually. The auction was televised and drew bids from around the world. The bidding war was ferocious, driven by the provenance, the unique low serial numbers, and the flawless preservation inside the climate-controlled container. The final hammer price for the 2 kits, the engine, and the loose components totaled an astonishing $12.4 million USD. The twins were completely stunned. They went from planning to sell the container for scrap metal to becoming multimillionaires from the sale of its secret contents. The container that was a burden became their life-changing asset. They used a small portion of the money to realize their original dream. They established their own high-end restoration garage, focusing on specialized engines and vintage racing cars, now backed by massive capital and global connections. They kept the original, heavily rusted cargo container, moving it to their new facility and turning it into a dedicated, climate-controlled showroom for their clients, a monument to the incredible, lucky discovery that changed their lives. They realized that their simple purchase of industrial scrap had unlocked a priceless, forgotten automotive legend. Thanks for watching our incredible journey.